Since yesterday, we didn't do the Achi cleansing offering, so this morning, that's actually what we're going to do. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect, precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sanskr, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sanskr, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sanskr, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. Lord Vajradhara Dilipa Naropa Marpa Milarepa Gampopa Pamodrupa Jigten Sumgön Venerable Guru possessing the three kindnesses, root and lineage gurus, idams, dharmapalas. Pray, please bestow blessings on mindstream, unequal refuge, ornament of the world, whose renown pervades the 3,000 worlds, the undisputed conqueror Vajradhara. I pay homage to you, the Father Jigten Sumgön. You alone are continually on my mind, compassionate one. Please grant your blessings. Dispel the darkness of my mind. Please bless me to realize the mind free from elaborations. Hung on the northwest border of the land of Vajrayana, in the heart of a lotus flower, endowed with the most marvelous attainments. You are renowned as lotus born, surrounded by many hosts of Dakinis. Following in your footsteps, I pray to you, come inspire me with your blessings. Guru Pema Siddhi Hum. In the Dharma Dhatu palace of Akanishta is the essence of the Buddhas of the three times. It directly reveals my mind as Dharma Kaya. O Rune Guru, at your feet I supplicate. Rani Dorje Neljo Mare Keji Selve Chisu Tu Jigten Sumgön Rana Shri Tugu Rangshin Chendu Shu Tuke Sabom Bam Yele Ramyang Kamto Zenam Ge Manda De Ma Kunjang Shi Layang A Hong Ye Tro Jose Ngo Sang Me Ki Yeshe Duze Rajin Chen Namba So Rek Dun Se To Pa Ye Tong Song Kang Wa Gyuru Om Ha Hong Om Ha Hong Nama Sarva Tata Gate Bayo Bisha Mukebya Sarvata Kang Ungate Sabarana Hemang Kagana Kang Soham Nama Sarva Tata Gate Bayo Bisha Mukebya Sarvata Kang Ungate Sabarana Hemanga Gana Kang Soha Nama Sarva Tata Gate Bhayo Visha Mukebya Sarvata Kang Ungate Sabarana Hemanga Gana Kang Soha. Lungi Drupa Ye Maki Sezo Sangwe Kyuko De Jindren Shesu Songwe Tenzone Yeshe Lela Drupe Dhagi Ma Kandan Damla Nebe Suma Cho Choki Ingle Gyume Kundrupa Yeshe Jikten Susin Trungurje Tukdang Gyuku Nedre Namka Tenzam Yo Barvelo Kepa mule ting da te dom ne che she che mo aji na nang za rage du pa du je she su ko ye she yin le gyu me ku tu ba le dang ye she dam se wang ge la rang rang ring tung gya we ten sun chi shi ge wan da ko dang che ba nam neu ju dung be nga ro du da do bo ze cho be ya mo len se len cho tren sang du du se ga so gir dam sa ner de dam se sa ma ja ja hong mam ho a la la ho e bhagavan akarshaya samaya ja Godang Chepa Go Rang Rang Tumbe Den La Ge Parashu Ngojo Yidu Joting Gyatso Gyo Lunga Yisun Gobe Chase Do Ye Dhering Nelo Gyabo De Duzo Sanshin Sakar Ge Sanje Jinche Drajo Nam Sapa Sepe Monlam Ge Dese Dagi Dongkundu Dhering Lala Sanju Pu De Don Juge Rangsa Den De Dam Mesan Sanshin Da Kye nyomon sewe menjo naso dang tasa rinchen podang agaru zenden karma trizan turuga shubha dhali tang pala songim shingna rinsi dinten tamche dang chema okum sadung naso gi dudu trinla tepe sanchu di tsawa gyube peden lama Idam doje nyaujo goje sang tensun somo yinju jogi dro leki kandro yeshe kandro ma damsi kandro wangi kandro ma Zaje soje doje masum sang ama ninku sogi poten dan tenle tomo mamo kodang je shasa mana tongi sonam dang Mamo kandro malu tamje shogi surpu dampana jomo tashi seyi wanjuma lamen riksi chenga chamdodang tema juni kodang chepa sha damden nyojo drupa po gobe ladang gyuki sumetso kagyu tempa rinchen sungse par shashe suma gyasoi sangi jo ladang dala po gyuru damde dang Nyamde konde no de don de ngen roba jineo de dan ten shol so Migyang kungun sangye dargyu ne de tara santu choga samo ye la sungye shen nyam cha so gyuru ne Bacho mitung kinkun shiwa dang punsung sapa chushin drubar sho ge de ring la sung panto do chogi drome upang to den sen chinang sangwa ye chogi drome upang to chudrin dogo naso ge chogi drome upang to mogu do yang romo ye chogi drome upang to Madang chakya dinsing ki choki drome upandu sipe semo le towa choki drome upandu Nidesi ole sewa choki drome upandu yishin norgu dagewa choki drome upandu yargi gyaso darge ba choki drome upandu gyate minu byage jir choki drome upandu zinju gyongshin dondrum jir choki drome upandu Suma midang madashi korde tenyo noju gi tujin pyayon punzo gun tering dagi yang dulen chayang gyaso shindu gyo suma dushe genam gi ningpo tenpa rinchen zon tenzin pyage tenpar zo dacha mino kor chela shila dashi longjo bel jisi dacha chongun do kame gokya damno zo Peyun Drungun Lun Drum So Sabaja Sato Sanje Guru Rinpoche Ngode Kunda Dewa Chimpe Sha Pache Kunse Tudu Daposa Sowa Deso Chinche Lampe Pache Shiva Dang Samba Langke Drupare Chinche Lo Deso Sanje Guru Rinpoche Ngode Kunda Dewa Chimpe Sha Pache Kunse Tudu Daposa Sowa Deso Chinche Lampe Jinang Sawe Pache Shiva Dang Samba Langke Drupare Chinche So what if so ginger of the soul Sanje Guru Rinpoche Mojo Kundra Deva Chapasham Pache Kunse Tutu Daposa So what if so ginger of the soul Jinang Sawe Pache Shiva Dang Samba Langke Drupra Jinjilum Desan Sanje Guru Rinpoche Mojo Kundra Deva Chapasham Pache Kunse Tutu Daposa So what if so ginger lam to so jina sawe pache shivada sampa lungi drupra ginger Guru Rinpoche, Buddha of the 3 times great bliss, source of all siddhis, wrathful subduer of maras, who removes all obstacles. Grant your blessings, we pray, through them may all obstacles, outer, inner, and secret, be quelled, and may all our aspirations be fulfilled. Sublime, precious, venerable, and glorious root and Nish Gurus, assembly of Idam deities, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas dwelling in the 10 directions, and all assemblies of Viras, Viranis, Yoginis, and Dakinis, please heed me. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana and the inherent root of virtue not result in the 8 worldly dharmas, the 4 causes of samsara, and the resultant states of hearers and solitary realizers. And may all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, particularly those enemies who hate us, obstruct us who harm those who create obstacles, maras who mislead, and their mara retinues have happiness, be separated from suffering, and quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, and precious Bodhi. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may we benefit sentient beings with body, speech, and mind. May the afflictive thoughts of attachment, aversion, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind stream. May thoughts of name, fame, gain, respect, and so forth in this life not arise for even a moment. With my mind stream moistened by love, compassion, and bodhicitta, may I come under the care of virtuous spiritual friends. And having become as limitless as space, may I achieve the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Once again, Myanmar never fails to produce on short notice these practice texts. This is the practice text for the Saturday Amitayu, longevity. Often it's translated as longevity, long life practice. But I think more accurately we could say it's a practice of vitality. We need vital energy, to not just be physically alive, but vitality as this basic principle, this basic life force, to make it strong, to make it stable. So we will do this practice this Saturday, New York time at 11. You should, if you are associated with a Dharma center that is hosting it, then please go to the Dharma center and do the practice together with everyone. If your local Dharma center is not hosting this, then you can email, message info@drikungdhammakirti.com in order to receive the Zoom information. Again, if somebody can write in the chat for Zoom, maybe over on Facebook, where to email to get the Zoom information if you are not living close to a center that is hosting this. There will be translation as well into Spanish this time for this practice. So we continue in the Great Drikung teachings to the assembly. Now we are at the section that says the need for pure moral ethics. This translation of moral ethics is the usual translation for what is called sīla in Sanskrit. Sīla, such as the Panja Sīla, is the 5 precepts. 5 precepts for the laity: not to kill, not to steal, not to commit adultery, not to lie, deceptive speech, and not to partake in intoxicants. Specifically, we're talking about alcohol and things that cloud and confuse the mind. And so these are the 5, right? The 5 Panchashila. Then, often, right, is translated as moral ethics. I think maybe these days I prefer the translation disciplined conduct. So disciplined conduct is derived from more like how Tibetans have chosen to translate sīla, which is tsultrim, tsultrim in Tibetan. So tsultrim, if you translate that literally into English, it's disciplined conduct. I think disciplined conduct connotes, gives us the understanding that part of what is included, part of what we're training in training in sīla, is to train to be disciplined. To be disciplined in what way? To be disciplined in developing the ability to restrain ourselves. Restrain ourselves from what? Again, restrain ourselves from being impulsive, impulsively reacting to conditions, to situations. When we say, even right in the Buddhist context, when we say impulsively reacting to conditions, to situations, to people, it's not impulsive in the sense of like, without rhyme or reason, or you blame it on your genes, or you blame it, No, impulsive actually is the result of past, previous conditioning. Because we have habituated, because we have been conditioned in the past. We have made consistently a certain type of choices, So now it's become impulsive. And here, impulsive, then we're referring to more specifically the kind of impulsively reacting to conditions, situations that create more suffering. So then the Buddha taught the importance of sīla, the importance of disciplined conduct, in order to rein in, to pull back in, to restrain our impulsive behavior. Impulsive behavior, the most subtle one, is the mental, emotional behavior. Then there is the verbal activities. Then there is the physical activities. It gains sort of an ethical dimension, the translation of moral ethics. This gains obviously an ethical dimension when our actions impact other people. So for sure, it includes, ethics in that sense, morality in that sense. But in some ways, it's even more basic and more subtle than morality and ethics. It's about disciplined conduct. So much, for example, of the Vinaya rules for monks and nuns, 200 to 300 of these. Majority of those rules aren't exactly what we would call morality or ethics. They have a lot more to do with discipline, restraint. Restraining our senses, restraining our desire, restraining our aversion, our aggression. So the Buddha gave the do's and don'ts. In the end, to do what? To train the mind, to train the heart. So all the intricate details, the most detailed would be in the trainings given to fully ordained nuns. Actually, the most detailed instructions. Second in detail are the fully ordained monks. And then less detail to the basic 5 that you and I should at the very least try to observe, try to restrain ourselves with this 5 sīla. Not to kill, not to steal, not to commit adultery, not to lie, and not to partake in intoxicants. They are the root of all the other trainings. And when we know how to train, how to train in sīla, they should not be tight, You should not feel like, observing this sīla, training with this sīla is making me so uncomfortable, so tight, so restricted. Then you have a wrong relationship, Maybe you're relating to sīla as commandments, as laws, That if you break the law, you'll be in trouble. Then you're not exactly yet having the right relationship with sīla. Sīla then, of course, is part of a threefold training called sīla, samadhi, and prajna. Sīla, samadhi, and prajna. It's a threefold training, actually. We don't just stop at sīla. Samadhi. Sama is even. Samadhi is the mind becoming constant and even. So, evening out. Evening out what? Again, evening out the ups and the downs of the mind. And the ups and the downs of the mind is made worse if we don't practice sīla. If we don't use sīla, if we don't use disciplined conduct as a way to rein in, then the mind goes ups and down and up and down and up and down, all sorts of upheavals. And the higher you go, the lower you fall. The higher you go, the lower you fall. And then the mind cannot have samadhi. When the mind does not have samadhi, prajna, super sight, so to say, super sight, super knowing. Pra is like an intensifier. Nya is to know. Super knowing. Super knowing cannot occur. Super knowing is in contrast to ordinary knowing. Ordinary knowing is, related to knowing, knowing things superficially, and therefore reacting to things superficially, being deceived by appearances. That's ordinary knowing. Super knowing, prajna, is what frees us from confusion, and therefore frees us from suffering. And so this threefold training, sometimes the analogy of tripod is used. We need this tripod so that all three legs should be same length, same strength. Then it can effectively have a good hold up this bowl, this cauldron, whatever it is you put on your tripod, your camera, your phone, right? This tripod, sīla, samadhi, and prajna. In which sīla, the first is disciplined conduct. So here, coming back to Kyopa, the need for pure, the need for untainted sīla. In the trainings that the Tathagata taught on what is to be avoided, there are proscribed faults and natural faults. So here, Kyopa begins with the common division that is made in dividing these trainings, these various precepts, into what is known as the proscribed faults and natural faults. Proscribed faults are faults that are proscribed, meaning like a doctor. So this is medical language. It's medical vocabulary. A doctor prescribes certain medicines, certain change in lifestyle, certain change in diet as good for becoming well. Likewise, a doctor, a physician would also prescribe and say, this kind of eating too much of this or that, not good, so don't. Staying up late, playing video games, no, not good, And sometimes, like too much physical activity, your particular situation now, no, not good, proscribed. So these are proscribed by the Tathagata, faults that are proscribed. Then natural faults, in contrast, would be whether the Tathagata, whether the Buddhas proscribe it or not as a prevent. You can think of proscribe as preventive measures, whereas natural faults, proscribed faults are preventive measures, and natural faults are without the Buddha explicitly preventing it or not, without the Buddha explicitly telling us you should not do it, whether the Buddha says it or not, naturally, those actions bring about suffering. So in terms of the 5 vows, 5 precepts of the sīla, often, if you make it the division to apply in this context of the 5 precepts, it is said the first 4 precepts are natural faults. And the 5th one is the proscribed fault, which is the precept of not to partake, not to drink intoxicating drinks or take intoxicating substances that causes the mind to be confused, that causes the mind to not have control. It is called a proscribed fault. The Buddha gave that rule as a preventative to creating suffering. So this is what this first line is saying. Someone whose pure moral ethics are kept with someone whose pure ethical conduct is kept without being stained by these faults will have no regret in their minds, in their hearts. And with such a mind, meditative absorption will arise. Samadhi will arise. Or maybe the translation here might be translating dhyana or jhana. But for our purposes, no need to distinguish that much. They were talking about the same thing. So here he's saying, without disciplined conduct, your mind cannot settle at ease. Your mind cannot become even. It will be going bumpy ride instead. So what sīla does is to minimize this bumpy ride. If, however, moral ethics are not kept pure, the mind stream becomes encumbered with downfalls. So then our minds become disturbed. If we don't live our lives guided by the 5 precepts, or a little bit more detailed actually, is remembering what the 10 virtues are and what the 10 non-virtues are, to engage in the 10 virtues, to avoid the 10 non-virtues. If we, when we know how to do this, to avoid the 10 non-virtues and to engage in the 10 virtues, it said the mind becomes at ease. The mind, the heart becomes at ease because fundamentally we know that we are making effort to minimize causing harm. When we make effort to minimize causing harm to both ourselves and others, this is what we say, our conscience is free. Which is what is really talking about here, about meditative absorption and the mind not being encumbered. In plain talk, we call it a conscience that is clear, a conscience that is free. A conscience that is clear and free can only come from us not having done things that makes us paranoid, that makes us suspicious, that makes us concerned, you know. When we have something to hide, a part of our mind is always busy needing to attend to that. When we have nothing to hide, you know, then we don't need to give energy to, you know, oh, am I hiding that very well or not so well today? And when we have caused harm to something or someone, you know, it's an uneasy feeling. Then we walk about trying to rationalize and talk ourselves out of feeling bad for having caused harm. Well, actually, maybe it's not harm. You know, actually, maybe it's beneficial to them. You know, yes, that's why I did it. So this mental chatter, you know, right? Every time we've caused someone harm, with this mental chatter, you know, we cannot stop. First, we feel bad. Because we feel bad, then we try to justify it. Then we try to justify it first, maybe in terms of like, you know, well, I didn't do anything. They caused this, you know. Then of course that's not convincing, you know. Then you go to a different story, like, well, actually, you know, I think I did the right thing because they really need to hear this, you know. Otherwise, they will keep continuing like this. So that's all take up, you know. So this encumbered. This is how we're encumbered by downfalls. Downfalls mean when we have fallen down from this disciplined conduct, then we become encumbered, not free. Then even if the mind is placed, even if you try to place your mind in absorption, in a meditative state, because of the regret in the mind, it will be agitated and unfit. The conditions are not right for the mind to settle evenly. This is because meditative absorption is the result of disciplined conduct. So from here we can understand the purpose of disciplined conduct is not to become moralistic and judgmental, either about yourself or about other people. One of the big things in the teachings about disciplined conduct is, even as the Buddha emphasized and taught and gave very detailed explanations about the various prescriptions and proscriptions, from that given to a fully ordained nun, to fully ordained monks, all the way to the laity. Even as the Buddha emphasized the importance of us knowing what these are, knowing what to avoid, knowing what to practice, another constant refrain or constant reminder is, do not let your practice of disciplined conduct give rise to pride and arrogance. And so that is an important point. This is what, in the West we say, self-righteousness, religious righteousness. So sometimes certain types of religious people, it's hard to be around them because you get this feeling that they're judging you. So the Buddha also says, and there are aspiration prayers, that says, may I, not stain my disciplined conduct, even with the slightest, may I not tarnish it. In the same aspiration prayer, quickly it also says, and may my practice of disciplined conduct not give rise to pride, and not give rise to rigidity. And if we were to translate it into our contemporary expression, is may it not give rise to this judgmental mind. So some people have good disciplined conduct, but then also you can feel, they feel very proud of their disciplined conduct. Then around people, they're very judgmental. You get the feeling, that they're judgmental. So that we have to avoid. Therefore, our primary concern throughout all lifetimes is precious disciplined conduct. That said, you might now think that since you are mantra practitioners, you are Vajrayana practitioners of the great vehicle, you do not have to practice disciplined conduct. So back in Gyalpa Rinpoche's time, and also these days, still, this kind of thinking continues. Oh, I practice Vajrayana, I practice Tantra, I practice secret mantra. Disciplined conduct is Buddhism for dummies. That's for the hinayana people. They are so attached to all these rules, all this. I'm Vajrayana practitioner. Everything is just, natural. Naturally, I feel like drinking and feeling a little tipsy. Oh, that's the display of the deity in enjoying bliss. Or I'm Vajrayana practitioner, desire, no problem, I can enjoy desire without any attachment. I'm not saying that, like, oh, you are now a good Vajrayana practitioner, then desire has miraculously disappeared. Attachment miraculously disappear. Aggression miraculously disappear. That's also not the case, I can tell you. I don't know about other people, but myself, those are there, But when they turn up, if you are going to kid yourself and say, because I'm a Vajrayana practitioner, so this is all fine, right? Once in a while, wear something different, When you go to the temple, put this robe on, that robe on, and then I'm a ngakpa, but then more or less doing the same thing. Then that's not going to make any difference, Maybe the only difference is it benefits the person selling the ngakpa robes, some benefit went to that person. You might now think that, since you are a mantra practitioners of the great vehicle, you do not have to practice disciplined conduct. In that case, you should know that the accomplishments of mantra do not come about in the absence of disciplined conduct. as it says in the Manjushri Root Tantra. So now Gyalpa quotes some important tantric sources. The victorious ones did not teach that there is accomplishment in mantra, in Vajrayana, for those with deteriorated disciplined conduct, as they are like travelers to the city of Nirvana who have lost all sense of direction, has lost all orientation. Yeah, so good luck, If you have no sense of direction and you try to go to the city of Nirvana, So not having disciplined conduct. And say, oh, I'm Vajrayana practitioner, I don't need disciplined conduct. It's like Gyalpa Rinpoche says, well, good luck. Precious disciplined conduct have to be kept carefully. What is the benefit of consuming meat and beer saying, I'm a practitioner of secret mantra, when the Buddhas of the 3 times disapproved of it? Even more specifically, here Gyalpa more specifically is referring to those who partake in meat and beer with Vajrayana as excuse. Oh, today we have feast offering, we have talk offering. Please, we need 2 plates of beef, 1 plate of lamb, 2 plates of chicken, and we need an assortment of alcohol. There are some places, even today, that practice, this talk offering with this kind of thinking. Gyalpa Rinpoche's own time, he himself was actually a strict vegetarian. And then in his talk offering, he would say, no need to use meat and alcohol, even if in the tantric texts they are prescribed in the tantric text. But he was very careful. He says, yes, of course it says in there, but we don't have the capacity, most of us, to do that. So don't mix up. Basically, don't mix up your Vajrayana practice with your attachment, and then foolishly think, I can use this because it's a Vajrayana ritual. There's evidence, like in the life stories in the life accounts of Gyalpa Rinpoche, that in some of these talk feast offering occasions, people get drunk. Then people behave, with no disciplined conduct. People get drunk. Even stories of people get drunk, then people, try to seduce other people, and then they say, oh, we're all deities, So more specifically, is in this context, he says, you cannot have this kind of wrong view. It might be supposed that such things are allowed in the context of secret mantra. Okay, so more specifically, he goes into that here. But you should know that there are. But you should know that there are 2 situations: one in which it is allowed, and one in which it is not allowed. He says, okay, you want to talk about allowed and not allowed? He says, sure, let's talk about that. If all 3, the color, the taste, and the power of the alcohol, have been transformed in common perception, meaning for all to see, through the syllables of ha, ho, hri, so that it looks like nectar, then so that not just you, but other people looking at that alcohol, its color and taste and effect has changed then it is allowed. Now it is no longer alcohol. It's actually elixir, nectar, amrita. Someone who can't do that, then it's not allowed. I don't think Kyoba Rinpoche was speaking rhetorically. In fact, there are those with the power to actually change the smell, the look, and the effect of alcohol. So through the ritual we do, ah hong ha ho ri, ah hong ha ho ri, ah hong ha ho ri. Now you and me don't have the power, so we use, Kyoba Rinpoche says, use milk, use juice. Now there's non-alcoholic beer. Doop, doop, doop. Maybe, I don't know. But if the smell of it, reminds you of your craving for alcohol, maybe don't. Especially in the context of Vajrayana rituals. Really. Because it's if it reminds you of your cravings, then maybe don't. Yeah. It says, if you have the power to affect that, so that other people, that's the reference to common perception, also can see that it has changed, then it is allowed. So he quotes this tantra of the emergence of samvara. If someone who has samaya drinks alcohol separated from the three ha, ho, hri, it will be poison without a doubt. It can be nectar, it can be poison. So, depending on your power. The tantric practitioner, distorted by alcohol, thirsts for pleasure and craves intercourse, laughs and starts to sing, is interested in fighting and completely confused. Again, there were apparently many occasions of talk offering where these things happen. So, in fact, there are specific discipline conduct related to talk offering, saying, no fighting, no pushing, and no fighting for the food, no pushing. Everybody should be orderly. When you have rules like that, right? What is it telling you? It's telling you, well, people were fighting. People were, out of control. Not only is that person a disgrace and his samaya has deteriorated, he will also be born in the howling hell. Since the yoginis will be enraged, here is talking about the supernatural beings that gather the dakinis. Since the dakinis will be enraged, he will suffer sickness, sorrow, and fear. So there are these fierce, worldly dakinis that gather during this type of ritual. Unseen entities. And he says, this tantra says, they actually get annoyed and upset because they have made certain promise to protect the sanctity, so to say, to protect the integrity of Vajrayana ceremonies and rituals. And when people behave like this, they will strike with sickness, sorrow, and cause fear. And the dreadful ones will attack him, and that evil one will burn in hell. Very strong, very strong words here, which is to say, we have to maintain carefulness. We have to maintain disciplined conduct. More discussions on this in the next page. But today we will stop here, and then we continue tomorrow. Chanchu sem chorim purje ma ge barnam ge gyuje ge ba nyam ba me ba ya go ne